Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones, Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the podcast where we get to the heart of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Jerry Porter.
And we are joined again by Tasha Robinson of The Verge. Welcome back.
Thanks, guys.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to be here for the ickiest, stickiest, and most violent moment in this film, at least as far as Indy's concerned.
Let's all raise our glasses of Kali blood and toast minute 75, which begins with Pat Roach preparing Indy's face for Kali blood intake, and ends with Short Round inciting a sidekick fracas. And Shorty at the beginning here, Pat Roach is holding Indy's face, and Mullerom's starting to pour the blood into his gullet. And Shorty, we know that he's always emulating Indy, and here we can see that he's easily picked up Indy's knack for just stating the obvious that he's been doing all through this movie. He's like, don't drink the blood out of that gross head tumbler. It's bad. Spit it out. It's bad.
But you notice that Indy doesn't seem to get the idea until he said that. He's like, oh, my mouth is full of dripping, rotting, evil blood. What do I do about this? And Short Round's like, spit it out. He's like,
hey.
Oh, yeah, that's a biological function I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least we don't have like a scene where he's going to say later on where he's like, if you listen to me.
Well, that's the awesome thing is because right after Indy spits it out, Shorty gets this huge smile on his face.
Yes.
He's like, he finally listened to me.
Now he'll live longer.
He finally listened to Suwamu me more.
That's awesome.
This whole scene reminds me of going to the dentist in 1980.
That fluoride treatment?
Yeah, just like, dentists used to, like now, dentists have come a long way in the last 20, 30 years, 25 years, but back in Dr. McMahon, whose I had, he sucked. And it was just exactly like this.
Yeah, that moment where Pat Roach walks towards him, like clutching that gigantic knife to his chest, that's pretty much how I felt whenever the orthodontist would come at me with one of those, Novocaine needles.
Yeah.
We're just going to cram this into your gums. It'll be fine.
It's better now.
It's for the best.
There's something that's really, really bugging me. And Pete, you have a mild anxiety disorder. I think you'll enjoy this. I'm noticing that all around the Cal-Aid room, they have fires.
Yeah.
Now, isn't that just wildly stupid? Because if you touch fire, you awake from the Cal-Aid nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have that exact note in my... Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Is it possible they don't know that?
Well, most people don't go around sticking their hands into fire. It's not on my daily to-do list. I don't know about you.
But when you put the candles and even a skull candelabra is the place with which you drink the Kal-Aid, it's like, how many times do you think they had the problem where they get the guy to drink it and then maybe his hair brushes against a candle and he's like, whoa, wait a minute, what? And they're like, damn it.
Do-over.
Yeah, but see, the advantage to that is then usually they're running around yelling, my hair's on fire, or I burned my hand off, and then you just pull them down and stick some more Kal-Aid in them.
Well, there is actually... There's a scene that got deleted here. Well, not deleted. There's a scene in the original script that never got filmed. And most of it I'm going to save till the end of the minute because it takes place then. But there's one part of it that kind of explains more. It's when Short Round figures out that fire wakes you up out of the black sleep. And he's sitting there like tapping on his rock, and a guard comes by, and there's suddenly one of the walls, like a jet of lava, shoots out and lands on the guy. And so Shorty... he's brave and he's kind-hearted, jumps up and throws sand on the guy to put the lava fire out. And at that point, in the script, they still had people's eyes would turn like kind of that hideous yellow color when they were under the spell, and his eyes turned back to normal. And Shorty at that point says, "Oh, so severe pain or fire will wake somebody up from the collie blood."
Does he say that? Does he like look at the camera and say like, "You got that, kids"?
No, he tells it to a kid next to him, like sitting next to him.
Get this, Watson.
Yeah, but then if you think about that, you're like severe pain. It's like they're going around whipping everybody every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With every whip, there's a
Yeah.
kid waking up, coming out of there. They have to just keep having collie blood every lunch and recess.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was wondering. Like, do you have to does it wear off? Do you have to keep taking it?
I mean, keep in mind, like, everybody involved here kind of seems to be sadists. Like, one of the things about this scene is there is so much glee going on, like really performative glee. And, Pat Roach, like, clinging to Indy's face, and, like, Muller is clearly enjoying pouring the stuff in him, and the little kid with the voodoo doll is just, like actually takes a minute to show it off like Vanna White. Like, I'm about to torture a dude. And like just grinning like a maniac. Maybe they do enjoy the daily ritual of whip you awake and then put you back to sleep. You know, maybe all of that pain is just something they give up to Callie.
Could be.
Huh?
I mean, speaking of the voodoo doll, is one more example. The Temple of Doom syncretism.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, I don't do any research for this show, and I don't know much about the world that I live in, but are voodoo dolls at all connected with India? Somebody tell me.
In the script, they call it a Krita doll, Kryta, but I think they just made that up. I didn't find anything about that. And
oh, really?
Every instance
tried.
of like a voodoo doll, you think of the Caribbean or West Africa, but that got me thinking. Remember that we saw those skulls in the Spike room that we kept thinking were pirates, and maybe they were pirates, the pirates from the Caribbean, and they showed up with these voodoo dolls, and they're like, oh, let's incorporate this, just like they incorporated some of Pat Roach's Anglicanism and whatever else.
Well, and
Could
we also,
be.
I mean, the shrunken head. Remember, the shrunken heads were from Peru.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's a very eclectic church.
Yeah.
But wherever these dolls came from, though, or the tradition of the voodoo doll, or whatever they want to call it, does the Indiana Jones one have to have a hat? Like, does it not work?
He has a little tiny bullwhip.
Yeah. A little, like, display stand that says Indiana Jones.
Well, he's so lovingly made. There's no way that they could have made this in like this, the 3 hours since dinner, which makes me think somebody in Mayapur Village was in on this, and somebody made this doll.
Oh, maybe.
Like, maybe the shaman. Somebody. It seems like someone might be kind of playing both sides here, because I think they had to have some notice.
I mean, like, as we noticed a couple minutes ago, like, Indy doesn't have, like, any of the signifiers anymore. He's lost his jacket, he's lost his whip, he's lost his hat. The kid should stick that in the fire. And it's like, if it doesn't work, it's not him anymore. We need to, like, strip it down, beat it up, pour some blood on
it's like
it.
he has a Han Solo doll.
Yeah, right.
He
How
needs
can
a Kirk
we make
doll.
this doll, like, look as sad and pathetic as you do right
Well,
now?
and like, there's a shot where Indy looks at the doll, and I'm wondering, is he thinking, is that what I really look like?
Come on.
Yeah, come on. And at what point would the doll not work? Like, if you bring up, like, so the doll has a hat, and it has his leather jacket, and, he doesn't have, his hat on. I don't think he's not wearing his leather jacket.
I love that it has a hat.
Yeah.
What if he took his pants off? Then would
You
the
know
doll
he does
not
that
work?
sometimes. Just looking. What?
Really important to know whether your Krita doll is anatomically correct.
I mean, I'll say right now, I took the pants off my Indiana Jones doll. I did. I just did.
But I mean, was he a Ken doll down there, or was he?
Basically, it's exactly what you'd expect. He was a Ken doll.
He was hung like
So
a
was-
tiny plastic horse, is what you're saying.
He was hung like Steve Austin, the $6 million man.
You wonder where all that money went.
Oh.
Steve Austin, he didn't get that thing for free. It's not how God built him.
$100,000 to fix his eyes and his muscles, and the rest of it just went straight to the garage.
His name's Steve. All the ladies call him the $6 million man.
We got him up to about 4 million, but then we started getting all of these spam emails telling us that we could go bigger, and we had to go for the extra couple million.
Yeah. All the add-ons.
There's another little thing here that was in the early script that didn't get filmed, is the Maharaja starts whipping Indy. Like, he actually takes Indy's bullwhip and he's whipping him, and then he turns to Indy and it says, "See, I've been practicing like Dr. Jones suggested," from that deleted scene. The scene they didn't film earlier where he was practicing with the whip and hit himself.
A little punk.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of performativeness to torturing Indy in the scene. I mean, I remember when I saw this when I was young, like I was kind of traumatized by all of the hero torture, like to the same degree that I was kind of traumatized by Han Solo getting tortured in Empire Strikes Back. There's just I wasn't familiar with James Bond at the time, and the fact that the hero getting captured and specifically tortured is such a trope. It's just such a familiar thing.
Yeah.
But even if it like to the point where in Spectre it's practically like fetishized, it honestly feels in that movie like James Bond shows up and just kind of hands himself over to the villain. It's like, all right, it's time to engage in really, really graphically portrayed torture for a while before we can do anything else.
I'm here for my 3:30 torturing.
I mean, it's required.
Yeah.
But here it goes on. It feels like it goes on, even though it's just a minute. It's like, you know, he's being pinned, he's having his face messed with, he's being choked with blood, he's being burned, he's writhing and screaming, and now you want to add a whipping onto that? What the heck?
Right. Well, that's my question about the voodoo doll. It's like, what purpose does the voodoo doll serve? Like, it burns him and stuff, but Pat Roach is grabbing him by the face right now. Yeah. He's got both his big, huge claws pinching his face. Like, you can, they have his whip and everything. It's like, it seems a little overkill. Like, he's going to get hurt. You don't need to make a stupid voodoo doll.
Right before he burns him, he actually bends the doll like at a complete 90-degree angle. and it doesn't affect Indy at all.
Yeah.
Like he bends he snaps his back so that it's perpendicular to his legs.
I don't know what the rules are with voodoo dolls.
No. But, Pete, this is for you. A Star Wars evidence.
Ooh. Oh.
As Tasha mentioned, the Empire Strikes Back torture scene. I mean, if you look at Indy getting tortured here, Cloud City, anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking, they didn't even ask me any questions.
Right.
Yeah. And even the way they lead him in, like when they put him in the manacles.
Yeah.
It's exactly like this. It's the two stormtroopers on each side. It's the same. They got the two guards on each side, and they bring him in kind of the same way.
I feel terrible.
And the screaming is like Indy's scream sounds just like Han's.
And you remember that the expression on his face when they pull him out of the carbonite, like that was something else that haunted me as a kid, was just that twisted face that was just so clearly stuck in this rictus of agony. And here you get the live action version of it as he's writhing in agony, making that exact same face.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, Tasha, being traumatized by this and stuff as a kid. And I'm remembering there was an article you wrote, I think it was for The Dissolve a while ago, about like sort of the idea that there's a right age and a wrong age to see certain movies, that there's an old enough and a too young and stuff. And, this movie magically became, actually, no, it never did become PG-13, did it? I don't know. It gave birth to PG-13, but I'm wondering, like, I have a son who's about to be 10, and I was 10 when I saw Raiders, but I still have no idea if I want to show him Raiders yet, or this, or, it's not just the heart. It's not just the heart and the guy burning to death in the lava. It's the whipping, and it's the burning, and the voodooing, and I don't know. I guess I'm trying to say, at what age should I show my son this movie? You're a professional.
26.
Yeah.
Because at that point you can just claim that whatever happens, it's like you chose to be here. You're of age.
You knew what you were getting into.
The whole point of that article was it was because critic Matt Zoller Seitz showed his 10-year-old and a bunch of guests at a birthday party aliens. And
Yeah.
they'd all seen Alien. They had all seen they'd seen the Indiana Jones movies. They'd seen like a lot of the other action movies of the time. And one of them was a little wigged out by aliens, but I mean, mostly they kind of talked through it. They talked through the experience together. They talked about what was scary and what wasn't. And they took it all in stride. And his article was kind of about, the article that he wrote about the whole thing was kind of about how, how their experience was different from his, how their talking through it helped them, and maybe he would have, as a professional serious critic, would have preferred that they like shut up and watch the movie, but it was just how they processed. And it was all fine. It was a really interesting article, but then the internet went just absolutely crazy. Like hundreds of people telling him he was abusing his kid and he was abusing other people's kids, and how dare he like subject them to this violent thing. And it became this huge kerfuffle. So the point of that article was there isn't a right age for a violent movie. Like, it's up to you as a dad to say, is your kid, how does your kid do with scary stuff? Is he ready for this movie or not? Like, you may have a kid who's ready for this movie at 8, who's just like, oh, it's all pretend, and now he's pretending to be scared. You may have a kid who at 14 is really nervous about, people having things forced down their throats. Like, that may be a traumatizing thing for him. So it's really, my whole point in that article was, it's up to you. Like, nobody can tell you when it's the right time for your kid to watch that movie.
Right. So the Motion Picture Association of America should have just stayed out of it and stayed with PG and whatever. 13-0.
PG, whatever you think. PG, your discretion.
All movies are rated D for depends.
What happens? Shorty gets pushed down, right? He gets kind of, the guard pushes him down right here, and he kicks the Maharaja, right?
Yeah.
And then the guard pushes him down. Like, he doesn't escape. The guard pushes him down.
Mm-hmm.
And then why doesn't he grab the indie doll? Or I don't know, he could literally do more damage if he just ran away and grabbed the indie doll. And instead he goes right up to Pat Roach and pinches him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he pinches him. You're like, that's the one thing that you wouldn't do. That's the only. You're guaranteed that nothing is going to happen.
Well, you know what? It's kind of like Indy throwing the rock at Pat Roach. It's like, he sees Indy. I love Shorty in this scene because he goes ballistic. Yeah. He goes nuts on everybody in the room trying to save Indy, even though it's, like you say, it's obviously doomed to failure. There's no way it's going to work out okay. But he goes nuts on everybody there. And it'll be, if nobody stopped him, he would just keep going nuts until everybody there was dead except for Indy.
Yeah, he's like the tiny little kid with the huge heart.
Yeah.
It's so weird that the guard holding him, like when he kicks the voodoo doll out of the other kid's hands, the guard's like, well, what do I do now? He's still being pinned by me. I guess I'll push him or something.
Yeah. I thought Short Round like wrestled himself away.
No, it's pretty much a shove. It's like, we're doing a prison transfer and Jack Ruby's struggling, so we kind of just shove Lee Harvey Oswald into his hands and see if that works.
Yeah. Well, one thing we passed over a little bit that I thought was interesting is before he brings out the voodoo doll, Mola Ram looks at him and yells something at him like he's giving him an order.
Yeah.
And that's when he brings out the doll. And I'm wondering, is that show that Mola Ram's actually the guy in charge at the palace, or is Mola Ram more like a Rasputin guy who's just kind of secretly manipulating him through the power of suggestion?
Yeah, I still sort of feel like, like the Maharaja and maybe even Chadalal were like just going about their business. They're like legit, whatever, politicians, statesmen, and that, the Temple of Doom infected everybody through Mola Ram and his cranberry juice. That's the sense I got. That like when he snaps out of it later, he's sort of like, I'm nice, I'm cool, I'll help you out.
Right.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like we talk about that. Who's like, does Pankot Palace just happen to have a Mola Ram infestation? like if we
Yeah.
take it like Chatterlal's a regular guy and he's a nice politician statement, and the Maharaja's just running his satrap, then they had this stuff
Wow.
below him. Like, did Mola Ram just, you know what I mean? Did he just, like,
He's just,
somebody
like,
brought a
termites.
suitcase in and, like, bed bugs? Mola Ram was in it. You got, like, a Mola Ram infestation. You're just like, what was first here? Or did they build Pankot Palace over an existing, I guess, Temple of Doom? I mean, he says it was catacombs. He says it was catacombs, so there was some... Yeah, there was like a cemetery. There was like an underground cemetery that existed, I guess, before Pankot Palace.
Well, they moved the stones off the cemetery, but they didn't move the bodies. Is the problem.
We know how well that works.
But it's also like the question, like when the little kid asks where the universe came from, and somebody says God, and then the kid says, "Well, who made God?" Like you just keep going back and back. Like, well, who made? Like, who made Mola Ram? Like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
was? Is he naturally a bad guy, or did someone give him the Mola Ram Khalid?
Did the Joker make Batman, or did Batman make the Joker? Which one of these?
Yeah, it's weird. Did they build the palace over Mola Ram's temple church?
Yeah, or was he like, I've got some cheap land?
Yeah, he's got exactly. I got some cheap. And how old is Mola Ram? I mean, what if he's? I mean, if with that speed, you're like, well, he's 258.
Yeah, maybe this keeps it's like a steam bath and kind of keeps you young and
In the
rejuvenates your
Khalid.
skin. Yeah.
It sounds way more like the Lazarus Pit. Like, how many Batman references can we get into this thing? And which came first? Because, Raj Al Ghul was kind of a late add to the Batman universe. Like, is it possible it was inspired by this in any way?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's say yes. Yes, absolutely.
Mullah Raj Al Ghul. I mean, it's all just sort of remixed Eastern mysticism all the way down. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Maharaja doing his little victory lap with the Indy doll, when he whips it out and he holds it up, and in the background you can see Pat Roach is literally just holding Harrison Ford by the lips. And it's a really good shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is. He's forcing his face into the carbonite look.
Oh, he's. I mean, have you ever had a snapdragons? Like, if you hold snapdragons, if you squeeze them by the edges, you can like make them open up and talk. That's something we did all the time as kids. It looks like that's what he's doing here. Hi, my name is Indiana Jones.
I don't like fire.
I have 0 stones.
Either that, or he's like, no, for a selfie you got to do duck lips. Look, it looks like this. Look, this is my I'm getting tortured selfie. Don't forget to use the tortured hatch tag, by the way, or you won't get that good tortured traffic.
It's a total waste otherwise.
Yeah. Maybe he's just trying to block a chin chuck.
I've seen your moves. Not gonna try that on me, little punk.
Going forward from there, the whole burning Indy thing really does not seem to help with like keeping his mouth open or getting any blood down him. He's kind of writhing around.
Yeah, it's more just to show off that they made an Indiana Jones doll.
Yeah.
They're showing off they made an Indiana Jones doll. It's really
Yeah.
it's a little out there. It's a little out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
my
voodoo
first note
doll.
about the doll was like, is there a way that could have been done that wouldn't be silly?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, there's. First, don't take its pants off and look.
Oh come on, you gotta,
Well, they don't need an Indiana Jones doll. I mean,
Yeah, they really
as we've
don't.
all
Yeah.
discussed, and they could have. I understand they wanted to incorporate that the Maharaja is, especially evil.
Right.
Yeah, and you're like, well, they could have given him the whip and had him whip Indy, or he could have, participated in the torture in some other way, or, I mean, he could have even done something with the Sankara stone and, like, put it on his forehead and give him a chin chuck with it. I don't know. You know. And Indiana, the Indiana, the voodoo doll's a little. I mean, we talk about the movie being cartoonish.
Yeah, that's like, oh, black magic. Look out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, George Lucas was a marketing genius. Like he made his big money because he managed to keep the merchandising rights to Star Wars. Maybe he thought people would be like flocking to stores to buy Indiana Jones voodoo, authentic Indiana Jones voodoo dolls.
Yeah,
little rag dolls. Yeah.
They are hot collector's items on Indiana Jones pages.
Oh, that's right. Somebody posted that.
Yeah,
a while ago.
You see them.
It's crazy.
Once in a while.
What a weird planet. Oh my god.
So wait, you can get the Indiana Jones doll, and you can also get the Indiana Jones voodoo doll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're the same size.
Roughly.
But only one of them is anatomically correct.
They need like a man-sized voodoo doll.
Yeah. I'm just realizing, like, when I was a kid, I set fire to my Obi-Wan Kenobi action figure. Do you think Alec Guinness, like, on the other side of the world was like, gee.
Well, he's dead now. Congratulations.
Yeah, I know.
Thanks, Tom.
I feel horrible.
You feel horrible. God. He was the one that was burned alive.
I had no idea. I just want to see what it looked like. Spoilers, I got black and melty.
Yeah, that's what they all say. It's not my fault. I didn't know it would happen. I was on collie blood at the time.
I was following orders of being a dumb kid. Well, do we have any beep 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 beep?
No, I got something before beep beep.
Oh,
beep,
okay.
There's a
all right.
There's a big scene here that Paul Sullivan and I have both been hinting at, and this is where the scene takes place. Because if you remember, right when they get to the Temple of Doom, and then there's the snake alarm goes off, and that guy jumps up and does the and like scares Willie. Yeah. And then Willie gets away because Short Round kind of fights him off a little bit, and Willie runs off and escapes. And in early versions of the script, she actually runs back up into the palace and bursts into her bedroom, and she's covered with bugs. And she runs out into the hallway, and Bloombert is just walking around the corner, and he says, "Oh, I noticed that Dr. Jones isn't in his room. We're going to Delhi tomorrow. Would you guys like to tag along?" And she says, "I can't leave without Indy and Shorty." And right at that point, Chatterlal comes in. And so she explains everything she saw. And Chatterlal says she's smoking opium. He says, "I sense the fumes of opium in all this." And she gets really angry. And she's like, no, it's not drugs. And she leads them back into her room. And she's like, "I'm going to prove it to you." And she takes them into the room, and the door is open, like the trap door. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, Indy walks out of the trap door. It's like this, great surprise reveal. And Bloombert asks him if all this is true, and he says, "Oh no, Willie fainted dead. She just fainted when she first saw the bugs, and she's imagining all this." And so then Bloombert repeats his offer to take him back to Delhi, and he says, "No, that's okay. I wouldn't want to leave with Willie like this. I want to make sure she's okay." Wow. And so then they leave the room, and he's kind of taking care of the situation, and Willie is like, "Oh, I thought I'd lost you, whatever, blah blah blah." And she looks at his eyes, and all of a sudden his eyes turn yellow, and smoke starts pouring out of his mouth. And he realizes he's evil Indy, and he told all these lies to get him to leave.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
And then that's where they ended up getting her. And then that's why she comes in as the sacrifice, because Indy brings her back.
See, that would have driven me nuts, because the sort of thing like, "Hey, I'm Bloombert. I'm totally on the up and up. I'm cool. I'll help you out. I got the military behind me. You want to go to Delhi?" And like, it's exactly what they want. Like, and they can't have it. They can't, like they're deeply in danger, but there's a nice guy trying to help them out and stuff. That stuff kind of drives me nuts.
Oh, see, it would have driven me nuts, because I would have been like, "Oh, so at what point did the blood of Kali kick in? Like, he's telling all these lies, but he doesn't get the yellow eyes and the smoky spit until afterward. Like, was he just suppressing it? Yeah. That's just something he can do at will, is not have smoke coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, he went into spooky reveal mode.
It's like he basically goes large Marge on her, but he can just not do that at any time if he wants to. What? That's pretty interesting.
Pretty cool. Oh, and so wait, so is that when you find out the Chatterlal is evil too?
No, I don't think you completely find out, but I think you kind of get the hint that something's wrong. The way he immediately says she's smoking opium. And, like, denies everything.
She's like, I'm not the one that's smoking.
Yeah.
It gets a little bit more like Agatha Christie-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit more like, rumpus around the hotel or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that an Agatha Christie novel I missed? Rumpus Around the Hotel?
Yeah.
I mean, it would have rounded out the other tertiary characters and made them less terse.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I wonder if they would have left all this stuff in the movie if it hadn't been for Harrison Ford's back. Like, I wonder how much of this was just necessity or how much they thought it was a better script without it. Because a lot of this stuff, and not necessarily this, but, like when Indy and Bloombert realized that nobody would really serve that meal in India unless something weird was going on. Like, scenes they took out that seemed like they actually would have helped the script make a lot more sense and be a little more palatable.
Yeah. And a little less offensive.
Well, the problem is they left in other things that were sort of tied to the deleted scenes, and then now don't make sense. Like, why the hell would Short Round know that fire is going to wake you up from the Black Collie nightmare?
Well, does that sort of happen by accident or something? I forget.
He was trying to put him out of his misery. He was like, I'll set you on fire and burn you to death.
It's the nicest thing I can do.
You won't be in the black. Looking at the very end of this minute, like literally like second 58 or so, like there's all this chaos going on, and all of a sudden we pull back to the room shot, and it like the left quarter of the screen is in the dark crystal for some reason. Like there's this drop off, there's the bright red light, but there's all those like weird crenellated stones that's like the shaft of the dark crystal, like leading down to the inner core of the planet. And it's like, why didn't we ever notice that there before? Like, at no point during this scene have we revealed if there's like a cliff and a drop off. It's like suddenly the space just completely changed. Yeah,
I hadn't noticed that, but you're right.
It's like been behind that thing that Indy was tied to and stuff. But yeah, they don't. It's like just in the corner of the screen most of the time, and it's not. You're right. It's not super obvious. You'd think they'd play that up more.
Well, then, like at the end of this minute too, like I hadn't noticed until just this right now, is there's little fissures all over the ground of lava coming up, like shooting up.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like completely, like they're stepping over lava, like they're all over the place.
That can't.
I didn't get. I figured they were in a sauna.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of what it looks like somebody just poured water on the rocks.
Yeah.
I hadn't noticed that. Earlier when we've got so much smoke going on, I just assumed it was, Erie smoke. It comes from, I don't know, Lake Erie or something. But it's actually emanating from these lava cracks.
Yeah.
Huh.
It all makes sense.
God, that's got to be stuffy.
Yeah. And it's got to smell horrible.
Oh, it would. Yeah.
Every 5 minutes or so, somebody accidentally like steps in or trips over a lava crack and like wakes up from the blood of Kali and freaks out.
Yep. Here,
what if like is Kali blood room temperature?
Ugh.
Oh yuck.
Do you think it's like maybe it's Pete? Do you think it's warm?
Or do you think they put ice in it?
Yeah.
Where do they get ice?
Yeah.
Especially in the middle of a volcano.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's warm because they're in a volcano.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's warm because that's the most disgusting option.
Yeah.
But if they put ice in it, it would be such a refreshing little, kind of pick me up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably not.
Anybody? Iced latte, iced blood of Kali, iced tea, anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do we have anything else for 75?
Oh, wait a
beep,
minute.
Beep, 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 beep. Oh, beep,
Yes.
beep, beep, beep.
This just
Beep,
in
beep,
from
beep,
Professor
beep,
Christy
beep,
Porter.
beep, 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 beep.
I just finally remembered where I've seen Molaram's hat before. Fred Flintstone's Loyal Order of the Water Buffalo. Totally true.
That is totally
Absolutely true.
Yep.
The Loyal Order of the Water Buffalo.
Oh my God. Well, now that we're at the Flintstones, Tasha, thank you so much for joining us for the past few days. This has been excellent.
This has been lovely.
And where can people find you and find your writing and everything?
Well,
Because they should.
They can find me down at the local Starbucks sipping iced Kali Aid.
You're the one.
Somebody's got to order it or they wouldn't keep it on the menu.
That's true.
You can find me on Twitter at Tasha Robinson, no space. You can find me writing about film and TV over at TheVerge.com. And you can find me doing another podcast with my old buddies from The Dissolve. It's called The Next Picture Show. And it's a podcast where we take a present movie and an older movie that have something in common and see what the two of them have to say about each other. We recently did Jordan Peele's amazing horror movie Get Out and compared it with Wes Craven's People Under the Stairs. Couple of different horror movies that are very, very heavily involved with racial inequity and political commentary. Believe it or not, there's a lot of political commentary in People Under the Stairs that I'd forgotten, and they made a really good pairing.
Excellent. And Pete, where can people find us and see if they are a good pairing with us? I'm tired.
Yeah, well, check us out on Facebook, or we have a special group there, Indiana Jones Minute Listeners Crusade. And one thing people often don't notice right away is it is separate than our Facebook page. So if you've liked our Facebook page but want to join the group where people are talking about episodes or what we're talking about, it's called Indiana Jones Minute Listeners Crusade.
Yes. Oh, and also please head over to iTunes, leave us a nice review. That would be nice. Doesn't take you very long, and it makes you feel like $1 million. And please go find me at the Caddyshack Minute, caddyshackminute.com, where more of this stuff happens, but it's a little grosser. Anyway, and then everybody come back here on Monday for minute 76 of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
If you drink the blood of Kali and then do bad stuff, do you think you have to atone? I thought I'd get Pete.
You dug deep for that, and I appreciate it.
You worked for that one. I like that.
I've been waiting 75 minutes.